Chapter 405. Yan Zixia. Yu Qianqiu. Both of them were stunned. They didn't expect to meet under such circumstances. Then, they looked at each other and smiled. An indescribable feeling lingered between the two of them. Yu Qianqiu smiled awkwardly. Back then, on supporting Xian Island, he was lonely, so he picked her up. His hands touched her all over, touching all the places that she shouldn't touch. It felt good. Then, both of them left supporting Xian Island. When they met again, he purposely avoided her. So, although both of them were in the 100 Flowers Valley, they didn't see each other. Yan Zixia's faint smile was mixed with some bitterness. She could naturally feel that Yu Qianqiu was purposely avoiding her. Now that they met again, she wanted to ask why, but she didn't know how to ask. Bang! The fireworks exploded, releasing a gorgeous light. Both of them saw each other's faces clearly again. Not talking wasn't a solution. Yu Qianqiu touched his face and smiled awkwardly. Why are you here? I saw someone set off fireworks, so I came to take a look. What about you? Yan Zixia asked. I also came to take a look. Yu Qianqiu smiled. Their conversation was simple and empty. Then, both of them fell into silence. They looked awkwardly at the place where the fireworks were set off. After a long time, Yan Zixia suddenly asked, Is the woman who set off the fireworks the lady in purple dress who was with you? Do you know her? Yu Qianqiu asked. I don't. Yan Zixia shook her head lightly. Who doesn't know Yu Qianqiu's name in the cultivation world? Who doesn't know that Yu Qianqiu has a lady in purple dress with unfathomable cultivation? You two are Dao companions? We're dual cultivation Dao companions? Yu Qianqiu was stunned, and he hurriedly waved his hand and said, No. He thought in his heart. That little girl probably doesn't even know what it means to go to bed now, dual cultivation my ass. He pointed at Ze and the 4 young masters and said, Can't you see anything? When Yan Zixia heard this, she took a closer look and smiled. She could also tell that the 4 successors of the 4 great clans were pursuing Ze. If Ze was really Yu Qianqiu's Dao companion, how could he just stand there and do nothing? Turning her head, she smiled sweetly and said, That lady in purple is also a stunning beauty. She has been by your side for a long time. Could it be that you have never been moved? Why did you allow others to pursue her? Yu Qianqiu smiled bitterly and shook his head. He thought to himself, that girl's father is not easy to deal with. It's better not to touch him. Besides, I already have a few good women. I'm already satisfied. Yan Zixia looked at him in a daze. The little disciple of supporting Immortal's island back then had already risen to fame. Could he continue his fate? Recalling the past, he couldn't help but ask, You owe me something. Do you still remember? Yu Qianqiu was stunned. What do I owe you? It seems like you have forgotten. Yan Zixia looked at the sky and waited for a firework to explode. She smiled bitterly and said, You promised to compose a song for me. If you really forgot, then forget it. Yu Qianqiu was speechless. Thinking about it carefully, he did casually promise her back then. He almost forgot about it. He didn't expect her to remember it. Dong, 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 dong. While the two of them were speechless, suddenly, a melodious sound of a zither could be heard. Even the bang-bang of the fireworks couldn't cover its penetrative power. It clearly spread across the wilderness. It was obvious that the person who played the zither injected true essence into it. The two of them couldn't help but look at each other. They were just talking about a song and someone was playing the zither. Wasn't it too much of a coincidence? The people who were watching the fireworks looked towards the source of the sound. On the other side of the river, under the cold moon and the brilliant fireworks, there was a beautiful woman in a red dress sitting on a giant rock that had been standing for God knows how many years. Her face was covered by a red veil, and there was a zither on her crossed legs. Her fingers were as delicate as jade, and the melodious sound of the zither could be heard. Although they couldn't see her face, judging from her demeanor, she must be an enchanting beauty. The people whispered to each other, not knowing where this mysterious woman came from. The few people who were setting off the fireworks stopped. The night sky returned to normal, and only the sound of the zither could be heard. Ze looked at Bai Zitsong and the other 3 people with a questioning gaze. The latter shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know who it was. I am a fox that has been cultivating for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of cultivation, 1,000 years of loneliness. In the dead of night, can anyone hear me crying? In the dim light, can anyone see me dancing? The woman plucked the strings of the zither and hummed a rhythm. Her voice was faint and moving, and it echoed across the wilderness. Isn't this the song you composed? Yan Zixia turned her head and asked. Huh? Oh. I think it is, Yu Qianqiu stuttered. His facial expression kept twitching. It was so interesting. The others couldn't tell who the woman was, but he could. Even if he couldn't see her, he could tell from the voice. Who else could it be other than his master's wife, the enchantress of 100 charms? He just didn't know why she came here to play the zither in the middle of the night. Ze was suspicious when she saw the woman, but when she heard the song, she couldn't hide the surprise on her face. Although she didn't know much about the world, Nongzhu was a master of music. Having been influenced for so many years, she could naturally tell the good from the bad. It was the first time for her to hear such a melodious and popular song. After singing a few lines, a sad story appeared in front of her. Isn't this song from Anquang Sung, White Fox? Bai Zitsong looked at the woman under the moonlight and frowned. Ze asked, You mean the song is called White Fox? I don't know, but many people say so. Bai Zitsong smiled. Ze nodded and said, It's a very appropriate song name. Miss Ze, you probably don't know yet. It's said that this song was composed by Mr. Yu. Tan Fei smiled and said. You mean Yu Qianqiu? He can compose music? How is that possible? Ze was shocked. Then she shook her head and denied the rumor. Ever since she had known Yu Qianqiu, she had never seen that he had any talent in this area. It should be said that the man's words and actions were not even close to his ability to compose music. If he had half the demeanor of his master, she might have believed it. In short, it was impossible. In fact, this rumor had been around for a long time. But no one could imagine that Yu Qianqiu, who was known as a scum and a madman, could compose music and play the zither. Wu Liqing thought about it and couldn't help but laugh. He shook his head and said, It's just a rumor after all. Rumors may not be true. I also don't think Mr. Yu would do it. There's also a song called Dream of Mandarin Ducks and Butterflies. It's also a rare classic. It's said that it was composed by Mr. Yu. If it was really composed by Mr. Yu, then, hee. Before Jingzhua finished his sentence, he and the others started laughing. They all thought it was a joke. Dream of Mandarin Ducks and Butterflies? Is it better than White Fox? Do you know how to sing it? Ze asked curiously. Just as she asked, the woman on the other side of the river finished her song. The melody of the zither changed. After the first song, another style of song was sung. Yesterday was like the flowing water in the east, far away from me. Today, my heart is in chaos, so much worry. Maybe it was because the song was really good, there were many fireflies flying around her in the silent night. They danced around her, adding to the beauty of the song. Jingzhua smiled and said, Miss Ze, didn't you want to listen to Dream of Mandarin Ducks and Butterflies? Here it is. Ze heard him and opened her red lips slightly. Her eyes looked at the other side of the river. She was completely immersed in the melancholy melody and forgot to reply. The Enchantress of 100 Charms had extraordinary attainments in music. She played the rhythm of the song in a captivating manner. The listeners on the other side of the river were listening to her singing quietly. Yu Qianqiu's eyes kept darting around. He didn't know what she was trying to do by doing this. Suddenly, His eyes met with the Enchantress of 100 Charms, and a trace of slyness flashed across the latter's eyes. Yu Qianqiu felt that something was wrong. She might be targeting him, but he did not know what she was trying to do. When the song ended, the crowd heaved a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the melody changed again. Although it was not as familiar as the previous two songs, the helpless feelings that came from the other side of the river were enough to stir people's hearts. Under the moonlight, the red lips moved and sang, "Don't talk about the past. Life is full of ups and downs. Even if you can't erase your memories, love and hate are still in your heart. If you really want to cut off the past and let tomorrow continue, you don't have to pester me anymore." The Enchantress of 100 Charms sang this song with great emotion. It was the first time the crowd heard it and they were amazed. Yu Qianqiu unconsciously crossed his arms in front of his chest. He squinted his eyes and mumbled in his heart, "What is she doing? Is she trying to hold a concert?" He turned his head to look at Yan Zixia. Seeing her infatuated face, Yu Qianqiu opened his mouth but he was speechless. He only felt goosebumps all over his body. Ziyi's eyes widened. She subconsciously pulled Bai Zizong and asked, "What's the name of this song?" "Ah." Bai Zizong came back to his senses. He shook his head and said, "It sounds good, but I've never heard it before. I don't know what it's called. Maybe I'm ignorant. Do you guys know?" He asked Wu Licheng and the other two. The three of them thought hard and shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know. Ziyi was a little disappointed. She wanted to ask the other side of the river, but she was afraid that she would disturb the other party's performance. She could only listen to the other side of the river quietly until the song ended. After the song ended, the Enchantress of 100 Charms pressed her hands on the strings to stop the lingering sound. She stood on the huge rock with the guqin in her arms. Under the moonlight, even the red veil could not hide her graceful figure. One of her hands gently pulled down the veil that covered half of her face. Her charming face was finally revealed in front of everyone. Those who knew her exclaimed, "The Enchantress of Enchanted Palace. So it's her. I was wondering why she looked so familiar. After the Enchantress of Enchanted Palace was wiped out, didn't she go into hiding? Why is she here to play the guqin?" The crowd whispered to each other in surprise. The Enchantress of 100 Charms looked around and giggled. "I've been hiding for so many years. I didn't expect so many people to recognize me. How rare." Yu Qianqiu was slightly stunned. She had revealed her identity again. It seemed that she wanted to come out openly. At this moment, a burst of laughter came from behind him. "I was wondering who was in the mood. So it's Palace Master Yi." Yu Qianqiu turned around and saw a group of people standing behind him. They were probably attracted by the sound of the guqin. Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Weiyuan stood side by side. The one who laughed was Qiu Weiyuan. He flashed over the crowd and landed in front of the huge rock across the river. "So it's the leader of 10,000 demons, Elder Qiu." The Enchantress of 100 Charms glanced at him. Her expression was indifferent and a little rude. The enchantment palace was destroyed, but the leader of 10,000 demons did not help. She was a little unhappy. Qiu Weiyuan smiled awkwardly. "Palace Master Yi, I haven't seen you for many years. I didn't expect you to be as powerful as ever. The war of the cultivation world has just begun and we need a master like you to join us." Yu Qianqiu nodded secretly. It was the first time he heard that the Enchantress of 100 Charms' surname was Yi. The enchantment palace is gone. What does the war of the cultivation world have to do with me? I don't want to participate in the war. I'm only here to visit a friend. The Enchantress of 100 Charms bluntly refused and turned to look at Yu Qianqiu. She resumed her charming smile and said, "I have lived in seclusion for many years and am fond of music. By chance, I ran into the composer of the White Fox and the Mandarin Duck and Butterfly Dream, so I asked him for a song. Just now, I played and sang Love Has Become a Thing of the Past. Recently, I suddenly heard that Sir appeared in 100 Flowers Valley again, so I came to pay a visit, hoping to learn another song." Everyone followed her gaze. It was none other than Yu Qianqiu, whose expression was twitching. They were in an uproar. Could it be that he really composed those songs? By Zitsong, and the others turned around. They were still in disbelief when they saw it was Yu Qianqiu. Yan Zixia believed it without a doubt because she had seen it with her own eyes. She asked in a low voice, "The song just now was called Love is Past." Damn it. What was this woman trying to do? Yu Qianqiu looked around and smiled at the Enchantress of 100 Charms. "Palace Master Yi, you're being too polite. It's just a joke. It's not worth asking for advice. I've come all the way here. Are you going to let me go home disappointed?" The Enchantress of 100 Charms laughed. Although it was a joke, Yu Qianqiu felt that there was a hint of threat in it, which made him very unhappy. He looked at Yan Zixia beside him and thought to himself, "Forget it. I'll just take it as fulfilling my promise to her." He threw out a green flying sword and flew to the Enchantress of 100 Charms. He glared at her. The Enchantress of 100 Charms did not mind. She smiled charmingly and pushed the zither in her hand to him. She then gave way to him and floated to the bottom of the giant rock. Yu Qianqiu held the zither with one hand and looked at Yan Zixia. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Back then, I promised someone that I would compose a song for her. Unfortunately, I've never fulfilled my promise. I'm ashamed that she asked me about it today. I'll just borrow your zither to fulfill my promise." He sat down with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes and pondered for a while. He randomly picked a song from his memory and brewed it. When he opened his eyes, his fingers were already playing the zither skillfully. The clear and refreshing sound of the zither weaved out a beautiful melody, and the people on the other side of the river were immediately stunned. Qiu Weiyuan stared at the fingers that were playing the zither. He realized that it was not an act. His mouth turned into a circle. Bai Zitsong and the other three looked at each other. They said that it was impossible just now, but it became a reality in the blink of an eye. Zi's mouth was opened so wide that an egg could be stuffed in it. It was unbelievable. Chapter 406. The temptress turned to the other side of the river, trying to find the person Yu Qianqiu promised, but it was hard to confirm. Others might not understand, but Yan Zixia did. The person Yu Qianqiu was talking about was her. Her beautiful eyes were slightly watery, but fortunately, it was hard for others to see it due to the dim moonlight. The melody was clear, and under the moonlight, it gave off a free and easy feeling. Yu Qianqiu looked around with a calm smile on his face, and echoed the melody. "The world of mortals is funny, infatuation is the most boring, arrogance is good. This life is not over, but the heart has no worries. I just want to be free for the rest of my life. Smile to people when awake, forget everything in dreams, sigh that the sky darkens too early. The next life is unpredictable, love and hate are written off, I sing to whine, I only want to be happy until I grow old." The surprise on everyone's faces had turned into an attentive expression. The troubles in their hearts seemed to have dissipated along with the song. They were all immersed in it, and some even swayed left and right involuntarily with the melody. Was this the guy who was filthy and immoral? This guy actually had this side to him. Qiu Weiyuan, who was below, was petrified on the spot with a blank face. Zi, who was on the other side, was completely dumbfounded. Elder Bai's disciple was indeed not an ordinary person. The world of mortals is funny, infatuation is the most boring. Are you talking to me, comforting me? So you have always known my heart. Yan Zixia mumbled as if she was dreaming. The moonlight was dim, the river was flowing, the fireflies were dancing, and the breeze was cool. As he sang and sang, Yu Qianqiu also entered the state of mind. His expression was transcendent, and there was a faint smile on his face as he looked at the fireflies resting on his shoulder. They were singing to their heart's content under the moonlight. He said, "No matter how cold the wind is, I don't want to escape. No matter how beautiful the flowers are, I don't want them. The higher the sky, the narrower the heart. No matter how much karma there is, I get drunk alone. I cry today, I laugh tomorrow, I don't expect anyone to understand, I'm full of pride. The song is singing, the dance is dancing, the night is long, and the dawn is looking for happiness. After repeating the catchy melody a few times, everyone had already memorized it. Many people were humming it softly, realizing that this song could relieve their worries. Music will eventually come to an end, and beauty cannot be preserved forever. The music slowly came to an end. Everyone was still immersed in the joy. Yu Qianqiu nodded slightly. It seemed that the performance was quite effective. Suddenly, he discovered that the Enchantress of 100 Charms was looking at him with a smile, full of ill intentions. He could not help but frown. Without saying a word, he picked up the zither on his knee and tossed it back to the other party. The Enchantress of Allure caught the zither that was rolling over and gently held it in her arms. Her face was filled with an enchanting smile as she let out a burst of bell-like giggles. She seemed to be very proud, which woke everyone up with a start. When everyone looked at Yu Qianqiu again, their gazes were filled with deep veneration. To be able to improvise such a beautiful and classic song, how many people in the world could do it? He was simply a heaven-sent genius. Qiu Weiyuan smacked his lips and swallowed his saliva. He did not understand music, but he could intuitively tell that it was beautiful. Even a boorish person like him wanted to let go of everything and have a good time after listening to it. It was obvious that this song was extraordinary. TSK TSK. Looking at Yu Qianqiu, he shook his head and exclaimed. This guy was not only good at acting shamelessly and fighting, but he could also play such a gentle song. It was really surprising. What a talent. What a gentle scum. Yu Qianqiu stood up and was about to leave when the Enchantress of 100 Charms asked with a smile, "Mister, are you going to leave like this? A good song needs a good name. Since Mister has left the song, you should at least tell us the name of the song." Everyone looked at Yu Qianqiu and nodded slightly. This thing was not a treasure. It was not like he could eat it if he kept it in his mouth. Without hesitation, Yu Qianqiu said, "Let's call it Xiao Hongqian." Xiao Hongqian. That Xiao Hongqian from Hongqian is so funny. Good name. The Enchantress of 100 Charms' eyes lit up and nodded in praise. Everyone else also whispered to each other. Yu Qianqiu took out a green flying sword from his long sleeve and stepped on it. The Enchantress of 100 Charms carried her zither and followed behind him. Yu Qianqiu looked back and immediately stopped in the air. The Enchantress of 100 Charms also stopped with a smile. "Palace Lord Yi, why are you following me?" Yu Qianqiu was surprised. The Enchantress of 100 Charms plucked the zither in her arms with a few fingers. After a few tinkles, she smiled and said, "Of course, to go back with Mr. and continue to learn from you." It's too late. It's not convenient. Let's talk about it another day. Yu Qianqiu looked at the people below and said with a twitching face. The Enchantress of 100 Charms giggled and said, "Late? It's better if it's late. No one will disturb us in the dead of night. It's a good time to learn from you." Yu Qianqiu's body swayed and he almost fell off the sword. He looked at her translucent clothes and thought, "Masteress, you're playing with me. There are so many people below, and you dare to say such obscure words. What will others think if you go back with me dressed like this?" Everyone below looked at each other in dismay. The Enchantress of 100 Charms was famous for her charm. Although no one had seen her affairs with their own eyes, her dissolute reputation had long been widely known in the cultivation world. Now, this scum was suitable for a slut, everyone thought so. Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu didn't know what the people below were thinking. Otherwise, he would have to summon the special forces and start a massacre. "Brat, you destroyed my pavilion. I haven't settled the score with you yet, and you refuse to show me." The Enchantress of 100 Charms was smiling on the surface, but she was secretly threatening him with telepathy. Yu Qianqiu's face froze. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. His cultivation was not high enough, so he couldn't explain with telepathy. The two of them were in a stalemate in the air for a while. In the end, Yu Qianqiu gave way and flew into the 100 Flowers Valley dejectedly. The Enchantress of 100 Charms giggled and followed him. The next life is unpredictable. Love and hate are written off. Is this what you want to tell me? Yan Zixia, who was below, turned around in a daze and was still murmuring. Once this woman started to let her imagination run wild, anything could fit the situation. Even 10 bulls couldn't pull her back. No, 10,000 bulls couldn't pull her back. After watching the show, the crowd left happily. They couldn't help but sigh. They didn't expect Yu Qianqiu to have such a trick up his sleeve. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Miss Z.E. Wu Liqing passed her another incense stick and said, there are still many fireworks left. Let's continue. Yes, let's continue. Bai Zitsong and the other two agreed. They immediately took out fireworks from their storage pouches and started to place them on the ground. Z.E. took the incense stick and lit a fuse. She watched as a ray of light shot into the sky and exploded. Although the colors were still beautiful, she didn't have the mood to start. Her lips were slightly pouting, showing a lack of interest. She looked at the 4 men who were placing the fireworks. She couldn't help but compare them with Yu Qianqiu. Then she frowned and thought, as expected of the disciples of the aristocratic families. They only know how to play all day and follow behind women. What a loser. It seems that when I was with him, I was always behind him. He was busy all day, and I rarely saw him stop. I was fine with him. Why would I hang out with these vulgar people and play with children's things? So vulgar. Damn it. I've been with him for so long. He never told me that he knows how to play the guqin and compose music. Liar. Ziyi's pretty face turned cold. She threw the incense stick on the ground and turned to leave. Miss Ziyi, where are you going? There are many fireworks here. Bai Zitsong shouted. The other 3 were stunned. You guys play. I'm going back. Ziyi said without turning her head. We'll go with you. The 4 of them said in unison. Ziyi's face darkened. She turned around and shouted, don't follow me. Then she left quickly. The 4 of them watched her figure disappear under the moonlight. When they came back to their senses, they couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't know why Ziyi suddenly lost her temper. They didn't know what Ziyi was thinking. If they knew, they would definitely shout that they were innocent. It's not that you wanted to play. Who would play with a cultivator? We're playing with you, but you're saying that we're vulgar. What happened? Did someone make her angry? Tan Fei was shocked. Wu Liqing shook his head. Who dared to make her angry? Maybe she's tired of playing with them. Sigh. A woman's heart is so hard to understand. Beautiful women are even more so. Looks like we need to find something new. Bai Zitsong nodded in agreement. Jingzhou pointed at the fireworks on the ground. What about these? I still have a lot in my storage bag. It's not a good thing to keep these things in my storage bag. They could turn into explosives if something goes wrong. What else can we do? She asked us to play, so we'll play. Who knows what she's thinking? This woman is like a kid. Maybe she'll come back when she's interested. Wu Liqing squatted on the ground and lit up a bunch. Whoosh. Bang. The fireworks rose into the sky. The other 3 looked at each other and lit some incense as well. The 4 of them played until midnight. When they thought that Ziyi wouldn't come back, they were so angry that they poured the rest of the fireworks in their storage bags into the river. On the other side, Yu Qianqiu and 100 Charms Beauty had just arrived at 100 Flowers' house. When they heard the fireworks exploding again, they only looked back. After entering, Yu Qianqiu knocked on the counter and said, "Shopkeeper, prepare another empty room for me." Just as the shopkeeper nodded, 100 Charms Beauty smiled and said, "There's no need." Yu Qianqiu turned around happily and said, "Palace Master Yi, do you have something to do and have to leave? Do you want me to send you off?" He was really afraid of her. It would be great if he could send her off. Who knew that as soon as he finished speaking, the 100-charm enchantress would secretly stretch out a sharp index finger and directly poke his waist, causing him to grimace in pain. What? Do you want to chase me away? 100-charm's beauty smiled and said. No, you misunderstood. Yu Qianqiu clenched his teeth and said. 100-charm's beauty looked up and nodded. That's good. I have something to talk to you about. Bring me to your room. That's not very convenient. Hiss. Just as Yu Qianqiu opened his mouth, he felt another sharp pain on his waist. He didn't dare to say anything else and quickly went upstairs. 100-charm's beauty nodded and smiled at the shopkeeper. Then, she followed Yu Qianqiu. The shopkeeper felt his bones become lighter. Chapter 407. When he reached the door, Yu Qianqiu hesitated and didn't open the door. He kept looking at both ends of the corridor as if he was afraid of being seen. The allure beauty swayed her hips as she walked over and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yu Qianqiu shook his head. The allure beauty stared at the door and asked in confusion, "Then why don't you go in? Is there a woman hiding in there and you're afraid I'll find her?" She pushed the door open and walked in. She looked around the room, even under the bed, but she didn't find anything suspicious. When she turned around, she saw him still standing at the door as if there was a ghost inside and he didn't dare to come in. "Is this your room?" the 100-charms enchantress asked. Seeing him nod his head in agreement, she couldn't help but ask curiously, "Then why are you standing outside?" She walked to the door and dragged Yu Qianqiu into the room, closing the door behind her. Yu Qianqiu staggered and looked back. His heart was pounding. He quickly walked to the window and opened it. He looked outside and said to himself, "The room seems a little stuffy." He stayed by the window and didn't move. No matter how he looked at it, he felt like jumping out of the window to escape. The allure beauty was slightly stunned and immediately understood what was going on. This bad guy was afraid of being molested by her. She immediately laughed and said, "Yo. Look at you, are you afraid that I'll eat you?" Yu Qianqiu was a little embarrassed by her words. He thought to himself, "She's not afraid, so why should I be afraid?" He looked outside the window and closed it. He walked to the round table in the middle of the room and sat down. He smiled bitterly and said, "Master's wife, what are you playing at? I'm looking for a reason to look for you openly. I'll also help you make a name for yourself in the cultivation world. If you have any complaints, you can only blame yourself for not greeting your master's wife when you come out. You're looking down on me too much. Could it be that you want to dump me after using me?" the allure temptress said coquettishly. Then she walked in front of him and put one hand on his shoulder. She leaned over and whispered in his ear, "What are you playing at this time? You're not going to play around and leave this time, are you? Why does it sound so ambiguous?" Yu Qianqiu felt the delicate body leaning against his back and was truly speechless. What the hell was going on? He said helplessly, "Master's wife, just say it. What do you want from me? Haven't I said it already?" "Of course, I'm here to ask you, Mr. Yu Qianqiu. Master's wife, don't joke around." After saying that, Yu Qianqiu wanted to stand up. However, a pair of slender hands pressed him back down. The enchantress of allure pinched his shoulders with just the right amount of strength, and said in a sorrowful voice, "My magical fantasy palace no longer exists, and now I'm all alone. If you think my craftsmanship is passable, then please accept me as a poor person. I'm willing to stay by your side and serve you." What kind of nonsense is this? Yu Qianqiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked back and said, "Master's wife, please stop. I really don't have the fortune to enjoy it. If you need my help, just say it." At this time, footsteps stopped outside the door. The two of them stopped talking and laughed. Then there was a knock on the door. Zi shouted, "Yu Qianqiu." The fireworks were still going off. Why did this girl come back? Yu Qianqiu shrugged his shoulders and said, "Come in." However, the enchantress of 100 Charms' hands refused to leave his shoulders. Instead, she began to knead more and more seriously, as if she was a servant that was being ordered around. Ze pushed open the door and entered. When she saw this scene, she was momentarily stunned. She turned around and closed the door. She directly sat in front of Yu Qianqiu and glared at the 100 Charms beauty who was behind him, massaging his shoulders. In terms of appearance, Ze was better than the Allure beauty. However, in terms of femininity, Ze was far from it. The Allure beauty's frown and movement were well trained. Even women would be moved by her, let alone men. Ze was like a green apple. It was a little bitter. The Allure beauty was like a red strawberry. It was as if one bite would fill one's mouth with juice. Ze didn't care about these things. However, it was a woman's nature to love beauty. It was inevitable that they would compare each other. However, the Allure beauty's unique charm was unparalleled. It made her feel inferior. Looking at the other party's graceful figure that was faintly discernible under the red muslin and the exposed snow-white chest, Ze subconsciously glanced at her own chest that was tightly wrapped. It didn't seem to be as perky as the other parties. Ma. Palace Lord Yi, don't bother. Yu Qianqiu shrugged his shoulders and said awkwardly. The Allure beauty giggled and said, it's okay. I'm not afraid of trouble. She rubbed harder. Ze couldn't tell what was in her eyes. In short, it was very complicated. Ze, weren't you going to set off fireworks? Why did you come back? Yu Qianqiu asked with a bitter face. Liar. Ze didn't answer his question. She looked angry. Yu Qianqiu and the Allure beauty were stunned at the same time. The latter asked Yu Qianqiu, what did you lie to her about? What's there to lie to? Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes. His body suddenly emitted a scorching heat. After forcing the Allure beauty away, he stood up and asked Ze, what's wrong with you? Who lied to you? Could it be those 4 guys? He looked her up and down. He thought, oh my god, did she lose her chastity? Who dared to force themselves on Nongzhu's daughter? No, to lie to her? They must be tired of living. It doesn't look like it. It's you, you big liar. Ze stood up and shouted. She herself didn't know what was going on, but from the moment she came in and saw Yu Qianqiu and that scantily clad woman acting very intimately together, an indescribable fire surged in her heart. She couldn't explain why. The Allure beauty looked at Yu Qianqiu with a smile. Her expression seemed to say, I knew you were not a good person. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. Me? What did I lie to you about? He felt a little guilty. Did she know that I used her to make money? You can play the zither and compose music, but you never told me. If you aren't a liar, then what are you? Ze shouted. When the Allure beauty heard this, the smile on her face froze. It was difficult for her to recover. Her mind was blank. Oh my god. Is this the legendary Ze who scared off 7 experts at the end of the Heavens test stage? Yu Qianqiu was also stunned. He asked suspiciously, that's it? If I don't tell you, then I'm a liar? Then why should I tell you? Ze paused. It seemed that she couldn't think of a better reason. However, the unknown fire in her hadn't subsided. She shouted in a far-fetched manner, if you don't tell me, then you're a liar. Fine, fine, fine. I'm a liar. Are you satisfied now? Yu Qianqiu was too lazy to argue with her. If he didn't finish playing with a stubborn person, then what was the difference between him and an idiot? He might as well admit that he was wrong. Who asked him to be so kind-hearted? Ze was no match for him. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Thus, she pointed the spearhead at the Allure beauty and asked, what is she doing here? Hey! This girl ate the wrong medicine today. 4 handsome men didn't make you happy? Yu Qianqiu looked at her from head to toe. From today onwards, I will follow Mr. and serve him. The Allure beauty explained on her behalf. She finally understood that although Ziyi's cultivation was high, her mind wasn't mature yet. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. However, the allure beauty transmitted her voice to him. I'm quite well informed. With me by your side, you might be useful in the future. You still want someone to serve you? Ziyi glared at him and said. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. Yu Qianqiu felt a headache coming on from these two women. He let out a roar and walked over to the bed. He threw himself onto the bed and closed his eyes. He didn't care about anything else and just let them be. Ziyi's chest was rising and falling rapidly. She followed the bed and shouted, Yu Qianqiu, you still haven't answered my question. Don't sleep. It was the first time she was ignored like this since she came from the South Sea. Even her master had never treated her like this. Let's talk tomorrow. I don't want to talk anymore today. Yu Qianqiu closed his eyes and waved his hand weakly. The allure beauty walked over with a smile. She bent down and picked up Yu Qianqiu's leg. Yu Qianqiu suddenly propped himself up. He saw that she was taking off his shoes. She really did look like she was serving someone. What was this woman trying to do? Yu Qianqiu was speechless. He just closed his eyes and let her do whatever she wanted. The allure beauty nodded to Ziyi with a faint smile. She then took off her little red shoes and went onto the bed with her bare feet. Under Ziyi's dumbfounded expression, she sat beside Yu Qianqiu. She picked up one of his legs and placed it on her thigh. Then, she started to knead it bit by bit. Yu Qianqiu moaned in comfort. He opened his eyes a little and quickly closed them again. His legs were full of elasticity and plump, which really made his imagination run wild. His heart was beating fast. Oh my God! How could I ask my master's wife to knead my legs? But I don't know anything. Ziyi was speechless. She stood aside and watched for a long time. Suddenly, she heard Yu Qianqiu snoring on the bed. His face had an unusually comfortable expression. She really wanted to go over and kick him. Seeing how virtuous the allure beauty was, she bit her red lips and resisted the urge. Then, she quietly retreated to the table and sat down. Late at night, the sound of fireworks outside stopped. The whole 100 Flowers Valley was unusually quiet. There was only the sound of Yu Qianqiu's even snoring in the room. Just like that, one of them kneaded his legs for the whole night, and the other sat aside and watched for the whole night. Ziyi's expression kept changing. No one knew what she was thinking. The next day, Yu Qianqiu, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his waist. He sat up with an "ah" sound. He saw the allure beauty looking at him with a smile. Obviously, she was the culprit. Ziyi, who was standing by the window, heard the scream and turned around. Her face had already recovered its calmness. Chapter 408. The temptress got off the bed first. The white and tender skin under the red gauze was really pleasing to the eyes. Ziyi's eyes also flashed a trace of amazement. Being so close to her, she could see the graceful figure of the temptress from top to bottom. It was an irresistible temptation for both men and women. Yu Qianqiu glanced at the delicate body that left his side. He inhaled the lingering fragrance of the temptress and smacked his lips secretly. What a pity. Last night, I wanted to close my eyes and enjoy this kind of intimate contact slowly. How could I fall asleep in a daze? It's so strange. He couldn't figure it out and got off the bed. He stretched himself and felt comfortable and refreshed. He found that he had never had such a good sleep. He couldn't help but look at the temptress in surprise again. It might have something to do with her massage. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen asleep in front of such a beauty. At least, I wouldn't have fallen asleep so quickly. The air in the new morning couldn't dilute the abnormal atmosphere in the room. Yu Qianqiu looked at Ziyi, who didn't speak. Ziyi looked at the temptress, who was playing coquettishly by the window. It seemed that Ziyi paid special attention to every move of the temptress. She seemed to be observing and learning carefully. Really? Yu Qianqiu was slightly stunned. As the saying went, it was easy to learn bad things but hard to learn good ones. This thing couldn't be learned casually. If Ze with the charm of the temptress returned to the purple bamboo forest in the South Sea, Nongzhu would definitely come to see him with a butcher's knife. Go down and eat something. Yu Qianqiu opened the door and walked out. The temptress touched her hair, nodded and smiled at Ze, and then followed him out. Ze followed her. Looking at the temptress's graceful body swaying with charm, and then looking at herself, she slightly pouted and seemed to be a little disappointed. When the customers in the 100-flower house saw the three people coming down from upstairs, almost all of their gazes were focused on the graceful enchantress. She walked down leisurely like a lotus, and her every frown and movement was infinitely charming, attracting everyone's gazes. Ze also looked at her with a trace of envy. Yu Qianqiu looked around and bitterly smiled. He envied everyone else for being able to look at the beauties without any restraints. However, he had many misgivings and did not dare to do so. He didn't know that God was playing a joke on him. He sent two beauties to his side, but he couldn't eat them. How depressing. What he didn't know was that everyone was envious of him. They envied him for being able to take on two people at once. One was the famous enchantress of 100 charms, and the other was the rarely seen purple dress. Both were stunning beauties. Just as the three of them found a seat by the window and sat down, they saw footsteps outside. Many people were running towards the back of the mountain, and there were even people flying across the sky on swords. Yu Qianqiu looked around and frowned slightly. The back mountain was where the 100-flower palace was. Could something have happened to the 100-flower palace? Temptress, Yu Qian Mountain yelled. Ingli Temptress, he to say. He. To the temptress, and said. And said. But. And. To. Damn it. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Yu Qianqiu was immediately infuriated. Coincidentally, another person ran over. Without saying a word, he kicked out and sent that person flying. Temptress and Ze looked at each other. Yu Qianqiu walked over and grabbed the person who was groaning in pain. He asked, "Do you know me?" The man slowly came back to his senses and was about to flip out, but after he saw clearly who it was, he repeatedly nodded in panic and said, I know. Yu Qianqiu pulled his lapel and shouted in a deep voice, "What are you panicking for? What happened?" "I don't know. I heard that Yan Bugui came back with his people. They are in a stalemate outside the 100 Flowers Valley. The Cultivation Alliance is gathering all the disciples in the 100 Flowers Valley." That person said with fear. "Why did this guy come back?" Yu Qianqiu frowned and let go of him. That person ran away. On a gentle slope in the back of the mountain, the 100 Flowers Palace was located. Outside was a sea of flowers. It was supposed to be a place where hundreds of flowers were blooming. But now, it was ruined by a group of people who didn't follow the rules. This was the second time. Dongfang Chong Ao looked serious. He held his spear and guarded outside the 100 Flowers Palace. The Cultivation Alliance didn't expect that Yan Bugui would take his people to the 100 Flowers Valley when the war had already begun. This was a terrible thing. Most of the masters of the Cultivation Alliance had been transferred away. The rest were mostly second-rate masters of the various sections. Dongfang Chong Ao and Xiao Wuyuan were left to take charge of the affairs of the righteous and demon sects. Their cultivations were higher. On Yan Bugui's side, it was basically the same group of people as last time. There were more than 50 people, and all of them were above the tribulation passing stage. What was more terrifying was that there were two masters at the end of the tribulation passing stage. Although the Cultivation Alliance had a lot of people, they were no match for the other side. Although there were some masters in the 100 Flowers Palace, they were originally Yan Bugui's subordinates. It was good that they didn't go with him. How many people dared to attack him? At this time, Xiao Wuyuan was blocking in front of Yan Bugui and begging. Yen Bugui probably gave him some face. Otherwise, he would have rushed in. Now, no one could stop him. Dongfang Chong Ao looked around with a cold face. He felt that something was missing. Xiong Hui behind him asked nervously, Elder Dongfang, doesn't Yu Qianzhou still have a group of people under him? Do you want me to call them over? That's right. Yu Qianzhou himself was an expert. Not to mention, Ze and 100 Charms Enchantress were by his side. Although those loose cultivators were useless, it was always better to have more people. There was also a tribulation passing stage among them, right? Dongfang Chong Ao's eyes lit up. No wonder he felt that something was missing. He nodded and allowed Xiong Hui to leave. At this time, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. That little disciple of his that he wouldn't even look at in the eye had become quite important now. In fact, Xiong Hui's trip was in vain. On a mountain not far from here, behind a few big trees, Yu Qianzhou and the two girls were watching the situation. Yu Qianzhou frowned deeply. Normally, he did not want to interfere in this matter because Yen Bugui had many experts under him. Even if he called out the special forces, even if they won, the special forces would inevitably suffer heavy losses. After all, he had used his own spirit stones to build them up. Unless the benefits outweighed the disadvantages, it was better not to use them. But I also promised Ma Jiugu to protect Baihua Fairy and her daughter, so I'll just wait and see. If the mother and daughter are fine, I'll just stay put, I don't care about anything else. Qiu Wuyuan, get out of the way, don't force me to do it, Yen Bugui shouted. It seems like his patience was running out. Qiu Wuyuan smiled bitterly and said, eldest senior brother, why are you doing this? Why do you have to involve the mother and daughter in your matters? Besides, they are not willing to go with you. Could it be that you want to use force against them? Whether they want to or not, I'll have to ask them first. This is my family's business, get out of my way. Eldest brother, why are you so unwise? Are you really so sure that you will win? What if you fail? Why do you want them to follow you and risk the world's wrath? Who would dare to protect them? Qiu Wuyuan tried his best to persuade him. The meaning behind his words was very clear. The mother and daughter pair are very safe here, it wouldn't be too late to take them away after you win. Yen Bugui coldly laughed, I'm afraid that if you lose, the mother and daughter pair will become your hostages. You're trying so hard to stop us husband and wife from seeing each other, have you already put them under house arrest? The last part of his sentence was very serious. So this was the reason why he tried so hard to take Baihua Fairy and her daughter away. Qiu Wuyuan was a bit surprised, eldest brother, what do you mean by that? Even if the entire Chinese cultivation world loses to you, who from the righteous and evil path would dare to take the mother and daughter pair as hostages? Not only our 10,000 demons wouldn't agree, even Fu Xian Island wouldn't agree, that was then, this is now, in a moment of life and death, who would care about the mother and daughter pair? Yen Bugui spoke in a low voice. Eldest brother, what you're saying, could it be that you don't even trust Shifu? Could it be that Shifu would harm his own granddaughter? How could Guan Dinghai of Fu Xian Island easily take his granddaughter as a hostage? Qiu Wuyuan shook his head and smiled bitterly. Yen Bugui's expression was uncertain, they'll be the safest if they follow me. As long as we're alive, they'll be safe. Otherwise, I won't be at ease no matter who has them. Qiu Wuyuan, seeing that we're fellow disciples, I've already done my best. Today, no matter what, I'll take them away with me. Don't force me to attack you, get out of my way. Without the decree of Shifu and sect master, I can't back down. Qiu Wuyuan slowly retreated. He knew that it was useless to continue persuading him, it seemed like he was ready to fight to the death. Yen Bugui's expression slowly turned ferocious. The conversation below was clearly heard by the three people behind the tree on the hilltop. Zi did not feel anything, but the allure demon's expression when she looked at Yen Bugui was a little moved. For a woman to be able to meet such a man, it was the dream of most women. She was also a woman who had such a dream. Yu Qianzhou rubbed his chin in thought. He didn't expect Yen Bugui to be such a family-oriented person. For his wife and daughter, he risked his life to enter the hinterland of China's cultivation world twice. Ma Zhegu's choice back then was not wrong. It seemed like Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter wouldn't be in any danger even if they left with him. The most important thing now was whether they were willing to go with him. If they were willing, that would be great, but if they weren't, conflict would be unavoidable. But they probably wouldn't go with him. Most women cared about their family, and Bai Hua Fairy was also a woman. How could she go against Fu Xian Island, her family? That might not be the case. The battle between family and love was never set in stone. Young women were easily impulsive, while men were easily hesitant. Big men were often the opposite. At that time, men were the most likely to lose their rationality. They might even abandon their country for a smile. That's why in the past life, there was a saying that husband and wife were birds in the same forest. He hoped that his guess was wrong. That way, he wouldn't have to work so hard. While Yu Qianqiu was thinking, his eyes suddenly lit up. From the Baihua Palace, Yan Zixia accompanied a dignified, elegant, and exceptionally beautiful woman. The woman was so beautiful that people didn't dare to look at her directly. Her beauty was enough to cause the downfall of a city. Needless to say, this woman must be Bai Hua Fairy without a doubt. Yu Qianqiu sighed to himself. Women with the title of fairy in the cultivation world really couldn't be compared to ordinary beauties. The Jade Flower Fairy from before was like this, and now Bai Hua Fairy is also like this. What a pity. All the good cabbages are taken by pigs. Chapter 409. Seeing Bai Hua Fairy leisurely walking towards them, as well as Yan Zixia next to her, Yan Wuchen excitedly walked forward, calling out, "Madam, Zixia, stop." Dongfang Chang Ao shouted and pointed the spear in his hand at Yan Wuchen, stopping him a few meters away. Dongfang Chang Ao, you dare to stop my family from reuniting. Today I will take your head to vent my anger. Yan Wuchen shouted, a green light shot out from his inventory bag. With a xiao sound, it shot towards Dongfang Chang Ao like lightning. Dongfang Chang Ao's expression darkened, quickly raised his spear with both hands, but as soon as the tip of the spear was covered in golden light, a black light shot out even faster. With a peng sound, it knocked the green light away. One black and one green quickly returned. Dongfang Chang Ao held his spear to protect himself, glancing to his side, only to see a 1-meter-long crescent-shaped black magic weapon floating in front of Qiu Wuyuan, slowly rotating in the air. The curved blade had a black glow, spirit energy and killing intent coexisting. It was clearly a top-notch magic weapon. Yan Wugui caught the emerald flying sword, staring at the crescent-shaped magic weapon in front of Qiu Wuyuan, shouting in shock, "Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyuan, how did it end up in your hands?" When everyone saw Qiu Wuyuan's magic weapon, they all felt it was a bit strange, but when they heard Yan Wugui's words, they were also shocked. A few hundred years ago, when the sect leader of 10,000 demons, Yan Wuchen, dominated the world, he had a high-tier magic weapon that struck fear into the hearts of the cultivators. Wasn't it called the Black Moon Pagoda? That was a peerless weapon at that time. Countless cultivators died under Yan Wuchen's Black Moon Pagoda. Ever since the leader of 10,000 demons retired, no one in the cultivation world has seen it again. Who would have thought that it would appear in Qiu Wuyuan's hands today? It was the first time for Dongfang Chang Ao to see any of the Chinese cultivators present. Dongfang Chang Ao looked at Qiu Wuyuan in surprise. Why did Yan Wuchen give him his personal treasure? Yan Bugui's expression was a little sluggish. Behind him, the old man in embroidered robes and the old man in linen robes also looked at each other. Although they were foreign cultivators, they had also heard of the fearsome name of the Black Moon Pagoda. Black Moon Pagoda? What kind of treasure is it? Yu Qianqiu looked at the gadget and turned to look at the Enchantress of 100 Charms. He was not very experienced and had never heard of such a thing. The Allure Beauty understood what he meant. Her expression turned solemn as she transmitted her voice. The Black Moon Pagoda is said to be the most lethal weapon of the Devil Dao. Its exact origin is unknown, but it seems that Yan Wuchen's father obtained it by chance. After it fell into Yan Wuchen's hands, it became infamous in the cultivation world. Back then, there was a saying, under the pagoda, all are dead souls. It was said that no one who fought with Yen Wuchen could survive under his Black Moon Pagoda. This shows how powerful this treasure is. Tisk, tsk. What a great treasure. Yu Qianqiu looked at Qiu Wuyuan again. He couldn't help but think of the day when Yen Wuchen didn't give him any face and slapped Qiu Wuyuan in front of everyone. At that time, Qiu Wuyuan was as obedient as a child. Who would have thought that after suffering in front of everyone, he would receive such a great benefit? He then looked at the mother and daughter. Yen Zixia was biting her lips, staring at her father without saying a word. Bai Hua Fairy was even more indifferent as she looked at the distance. She didn't say a word. No one knew what she was thinking behind her calm face. This family is a bit interesting. They even dragged me into this. What the hell? Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Eldest brother, you didn't see wrong. This is Master's personal treasure, the Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyuan bowed sincerely towards the direction of the 10,000 demons. Wuyuan was adopted by Master when I was young. He personally taught me and treated me like his own son. I have always treated Master as a strict father. However, Wuyuan's talent is limited. Master has always favored me. First, he gave me the 4 generals of the demon family. Then, he gave me his personal treasure, the Black Moon Pagoda. Qiu Wuyuan cannot repay Master's kindness even if he dies 10,000 times. Shut up! Yen Bugui shouted. His face was twisted. The Yen family's descendants have not died yet. This Black Moon Pagoda is not the treasure of the 10,000 demons. It is our Yen family's inherited treasure. How can we give it to an outsider? Give it back. He was really asking for it without any hesitation. Qiu Wuyuan shook his head. Eldest brother, Master already knew that you would say something like this. He told me to pass on a message to you when I see you again. Hearing that his father had something to tell him, Yen Bugui's eyes flickered. What message? This is what Master said. Eldest senior brother, listen carefully. Qiu Wuyuan smiled bitterly. He said slowly, I originally had a son and a foster son. My son betrayed the 10,000 demons. He abandoned the Yen family's painstaking efforts and gave the 4 generals of the demon family to my foster son. My son betrayed the cultivation world of Huaxia and gave the Yen family's inherited treasure to my foster son. Unfilial son. Are you ashamed? Since you have the ability to betray us again and again, you should have the ability to fight for your own things. The Yen family's things do not belong to you. Don't ask for it shamelessly. Wuyuan, if he dares to ask for it from you, tell him everything I said. Let's see if he can face the ancestors of the Yen family. Yen Bugui felt like he was struck by lightning. He looked at Qiu Wuyuan with a pale face. He knew that Qiu Wuyuan would not lie in front of everyone. These words were undoubtedly from his father. Qiu Wuyuan said helplessly, Eldest brother, these are Master's original words. I didn't change a single word. Palace Master Yen, don't lose your composure. With Palace Master Yan's spirit, the 10,000 demons can only restrain you. How can you fulfill your ambitions? When you control the entire cultivation world of Huaxia in the future, who would dare to say a word against you? The old man in brocade robe chuckled. He looked at the old man in linen robe beside him. This time, Yen Bugui returned to the 100 Flowers Valley. Although it was because he missed his wife and daughter, there were 2 people behind it. The headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance was empty. If they took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, even if they could not cause great losses to the cultivation world of Huaxia, they could still greatly damage their morale and bring invisible benefits to the battle ahead. Otherwise, who would have nothing better to do and come all the way here to fight for his wife? They were not really his subordinates. The 2 of them looked at the increasing number of cultivators from Huaxia and smiled. One disagreement would be the beginning of a massacre. The more casualties they caused, the more they could damage the morale of the Cultivation Alliance, and the more advantageous it would be for the battle ahead. Shut up. Qiu Wuyuan shouted at the old man in brocade robe. My eldest brother's current situation was instigated by you too. You have the ambition of wolves and evil intentions. How dare you speak so arrogantly here? The old man in brocade robe raised his eyebrows and chuckled. I'm not your eldest brother. If you talk too much, you might lose the Black Moon Pagoda and your head. I'll give face to Palace Master Yen for now. I hope you won't say anything to anger me again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. How dare you? Dongfang Cheng Ao shouted, holding his spear in one hand and standing next to Qiu Wuyuan. The two of them exchanged glances. Although they've been enemies for many years, they have a tacit understanding. They've already given up on the righteous and demonic paths and are ready to fight side by side. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I won't be polite, the old man in brocade robe smirked. His hands came out from behind his back. He finally had an excuse to act. Chang Ao, Wuyuan, stand down. A slightly dignified female voice was heard. Dongfang Chang Ao and Qiu Wuyuan turned around, only to see the beautiful Baihua fairy was already walking towards them. The two of them were a bit surprised, exchanged glances, but didn't say anything. They only slightly bowed and stood on her left and right, on high alert to prevent any mishaps. Baihua fairy coldly stared at the old man in brocade robe, her tone frigid. Who are you, daring to provoke my Baihua palace? Are you trying to bully us mother and daughter because our Baihua palace doesn't have a man to lead it? Her man is right in front of her, yet she still dares to say such words. Yu Qianqiu, who was hiding in the shadows, shook his head. Not only is this woman beautiful, but she's also very smart. No wonder Baihua Palace isn't led by Yan Bugui, but by her. Her words are so sharp that they cut straight to the heart. Fuck. You want me to protect her? I think it's more like she's protecting me. Ma Jiugu is going in the opposite direction. Sure enough, when the old man saw Baihua Fairy's beauty, his eyes filled with admiration, was stunned, speechless. He immediately turned around to look at the pale-faced Yan Bugui. This woman's words are trying to drive a wedge between them. If I argue with her, Yan Bugui might turn against me. Although I'm not afraid of turning against him, now's not the time to do so. I still need his cooperation. The brocade-robed old man remembered that man who and his fellow brothers must have taken some kind of wrong medicine. They're all dead set on following the Yen father and son. His expression couldn't help but twitch a bit. As he retreated, he said, Baihua Fairy truly lives up to her name. Dongfang Changyao and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances. Even their combined efforts couldn't scare them away, but they were all taken care of by Baihua Fairy with just a few words. People really can't be compared to each other. Baihua Fairy's beautiful eyes looked around, scowling. My 100 Flowers Valley used to be a peaceful place, but now it's a mess. This palace doesn't welcome you. Get out of 100 Flowers Valley immediately. Saying so, she coldly turned around and walked away. Mu Shui, listen to me. Yan Bugui raised his hand and shouted. Dongfang Changyao and Qiu Wuyuan immediately blocked his way. Qiu Wuyuan shook his head. Eldest brother, sister-in-law has made it very clear, you should go back. Mu Shui. Yu Qianqiu muttered, then turned around to look at the 100 Charms beauty. The latter smiled and sent her voice. Baihua Fairy's real name is Guan Mu Shui. Yu Qianqiu nodded in understanding. The 100 Charms beauty sent her voice again. Now you know the benefits of having me by your side. Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes. Who the hell knows what you're thinking? Hearing that, Baihua Fairy stopped and turned around to look at Yan Bugui. Ever since they came out, this was the first time she looked at him directly. Her face was expressionless. Listen to you? Listen to what you say? You've lied to me for so many years. Don't tell me you think it's not enough and want to keep lying. Am I, Guan Mu Shui, so easy to bully in your eyes? Forget it, I don't want to talk about the past anymore. I'm tired, and I don't want to hear anymore. If you still care about the past, then return peace to my 100 Flower Valley and leave with your people. After saying that, he turned around again. Chapter 410. Mu Shui, do you still remember the time before Baihua Palace was established, when we had no one to rely on? Yan Bugui loudly shouted. Hearing that, Baihua Fairy stopped again, but this time, she didn't turn around. Seeing that she had stopped, Yan Bugui said in a loud and emotional voice, back then, it wasn't easy for you and I to be together, and we faced so much resistance. Although we were ridiculed and scolded, we still persevered. Before Baihua Palace was established, did the 10,000 demons or Fu Xian Island care for us? No. No one cared if we lived or died. It wasn't until you and I worked so hard to establish this Baihua Palace that we managed to gain a foothold in the cultivation world. How could outsiders understand the hardships we went through? Baihua Fairy didn't move, she didn't leave, nor did she turn around. Perhaps she was also thinking about the hard times back then. Dongfang Changyao and Xiao Wuyuan exchanged glances, both of them knew about it. Back then, Fu Xian Island and 10,000 demons were pressured by both the righteous and evil path. Even their sect masters, Guan Dinghai and Yan Wuchen, had to take the blame and step down, so who would care about them when they were in a fit of anger? For a very long time, they really didn't lend a helping hand to the two of them, leaving them to fend for themselves. It wasn't until Baihua Palace became the trading hub of China's cultivation world that the two great sects secretly re-established their relationship with it. Then again, if the two of them didn't have the backing of the number one sect in the righteous and evil path, it would have been even more difficult for them to establish their own sects in the cultivation world. Back then, I told you that one day, I won't let anyone look down on you anymore. Perhaps you think it was only in the heat of the moment that I uttered those words. But I took it as a vow, and I've always been fighting for it. Thus, I've been working hard in secret for 100 years, but who knew that it would be destroyed by that fellow Yu Qianqiu? Otherwise, the vow I made would just be around the corner. Hearing him mention Yu Qianqiu, Zi looked at Yu Qianqiu curiously. She had never heard of this. She didn't know what Yu Qianqiu had done to destroy the plan that Yu Qianqiu had painstakingly worked on for 100 years. She saw Yu Qianqiu's mouth split open, looking like he was in great pain as he smiled at her. His smile was very ugly. On the other side, the Enchantress of 100 Charms was silently poking his waist with a finger. Yen, why are you dragging me into the matter between you and your wife? Your wife and I didn't cheat on you. Yu Qianqiu gritted his teeth and endured the pain. The Enchantress of 100 Charms had a bad habit. She liked to poke people with her fingers at the slightest provocation. One day, he would let her have a taste of her pain. Everything I've done is for you. Don't tell me I'm not worthy of your forgiveness? Yan Bugui extended his hand and said, Mu Shui, come with me. If it was really for me, you should have told me earlier. You wouldn't have kept it a secret for 100 years. Baihua Fairy didn't turn around and continued walking. Don't you know me? I've given up everything to be with you. I've never disagreed with any of your decisions. After I found out, I would only support you and not drag you down. Yet you kept it a secret from me. Clearly, you've always been on guard against me. I didn't want to make you worry. I didn't want you to work too hard, Yan Bugui loudly explained. We both understand each other. Whether or not it's an excuse, you should understand. There's no need to explain anything else. Just take your people and leave. I don't want to see you again. Baihua Fairy still didn't turn around. Yan Zixia followed on the side, silently obeying her. Occasionally, she would look back. On one side was her father, and on the other side was her mother. What else could she do? The brocade-robed old man and the linen-robed old man exchanged glances and nodded. The former sent his voice to Yan Bugui, Palace Master Yan, your madam has already made up her mind. I think it would be better if we forcefully kidnap the mother and daughter back to Everlasting Island. The daughter is mother's flesh and blood, it would be better if the young Palace Master comes out to persuade them. Otherwise, they'll eventually become hostages in the hands of the Cultivation Alliance. At that point, we'll be stuck. Yan Bugui sent his voice back. That's not a good idea. She has a strong personality. I'm afraid that she'll do something that she won't be able to regret. Palace Master Yan, if you can't make a decision, you have to make a decision quickly. How about this? As long as you agree, my junior brother and I will act together to guarantee that we'll kidnap the mother and daughter, not giving them a chance to harm themselves. What do you think?" The brocade-robed old man continued to persuade him. Seeing that Bai Hua Fairy had already entered the palace gate, Yan Bugui gritted his teeth and sent his voice back. "Then I'll have to trouble Senior Chang and Senior Feng to ensure their safety." The brocade-robed old man's face lit up, nodded to the linen-robed old man and suddenly shouted, "Kill!" As soon as the order was given, the two old men behind Yan Bugui had already disappeared. Dongfang Chang, Ao and Xiao Wuyuan were both shocked and shouted at the same time, "Not good." The two of them quickly flew back into Baihua Palace, but compared to a Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivator's teleportation, their speed was too slow. Baihua Fairy probably didn't think that Yan Bugui would order people to use force on her. Hearing the commotion behind her, before she could even react, the acupuncture point on her back was instantly struck. A powerful surge of true essence rushed into her body, cutting off any chance of resistance. Yan Zixia was also the same. Yu Qianqiu, who was hiding in the shadows, thought that Yan Bugui was deeply in love with his wife and wouldn't use force, but he didn't expect this to be the case. He didn't expect the foreign cultivators to instigate Yan Bugui. The Baihua Palace disciples guarding the palace gate were shocked and immediately attacked the two old men with their flying swords. But with their cultivation, this kind of action is nothing but child's play for a Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivator. The two of them unleashed a powerful wave of true qi to knock the flying swords away. Several disciples screamed in pain, spat out blood as they were sent flying and died on the spot. Baihua Fairy and Yan Zixia's shoulders were being held down, they couldn't even move their fingers. Dongfang Chang, Ao and Xiao Wuyuan, who just arrived, saw that the mother and daughter were being restrained by the two Tribulation Realm late-stage cultivators, so they didn't dare to act rashly. The brocade-robed old man smiled at the two of them. "I know you two are the ones in charge here. Tell your people to stop, otherwise these two beauties are going to suffer." Screams and screams could be heard outside. The group of foreign cultivators had already started a massacre. The Cultivation Alliance's members who stayed behind were all mixed in cultivation, so how could they be a match for them? They were all killed in just a few moves. But facing a foreign enemy, their blood was roused and they all charged forward without fear of death. Even if they were afraid of death, there was no way to escape. If they ran away from this battle, there would probably be no place for them in the world. Blood was boiling everywhere. In the blink of an eye, many people had already given up their lives. Such a heroic scene caused Dongfang Chang, Ao and Xiao Wuyuan to look at each other, then quickly made the decision to retreat. The brocade-robed old man used the mother and daughter to threaten them, but it didn't work at all. Not only did the two of them not tell the Cultivation Alliance to stop, they even gave up on the safety of Baihua Fairy and Yan Zixia. Their anger turned into endless killing intent as they returned to the battlefield with all their might. "Ah!" Dongfang Chang, Ao shouted angrily as he thrust his spear forward. Below, a foreign Tribulation Realm early-stage cultivator, who had just used a flying sword to take the lives of two people, sneered and was about to summon his sword to kill again. Suddenly, he heard a loud roar from the sky. When he looked up, a golden spear had directly knocked away his flying sword and was heading towards him. He was scared out of his wits and hurriedly tried to escape. But how could Dongfang Chang, Ao let him go? Relying on his superior speed, he raised his spear and cut him in half, sending his head flying. Dongfang Chang, Ao didn't stop. He turned around with his spear and looked for another person to fight. On the other side, Xiao Wuyuan was even more ferocious than Dongfang Chang, Ao. The Black Moon Pagoda danced around his body like a ghost, following him wherever he went. Every time he attacked, he would destroy the opponent's magic tools or magic treasures. Then, the Black Moon Pagoda moved like a phantom, reaping the opponent's life with lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Wuyuan had taken the lives of 3 Tribulation passing stage cultivators. The Black Moon Pagoda was indeed the most ferocious weapon of the diabolism. It was indeed powerful. With such power, when the foreign Tribulation passing stage cultivators saw Xiao Wuyuan rushing towards them with the Black Moon Pagoda, they quickly dodged it. One of them was holding the Golden Origin Spear, while the other was carrying the Black Moon Pagoda. They fought fiercely and were stained with blood. They killed more than 10 people in a row, which greatly boosted the morale of their side. The people of the Cultivation Alliance immediately fought back with all their might. Although they knew that they were going to die, their morale was high. They only wanted to entangle the other foreign cultivators and wait for Dongfang Chang, Ao and Xiao Wuyuan to come and avenge them. This scene caused Dongfang Chang, Ao and Xiao Wuyuan's eyes to turn red. They roared in anger and grief. The golden light and the black shadow would not stop until one of them was dead. The old man was stunned by this sudden change. He knew that these two were the strongest among the people on the other side, and seeing how respectful they were towards Baihua Fairy, he decided to use the lives of Baihua Fairy and her daughter to threaten them. But who would have thought that at this crucial moment, they wouldn't even care about their threats? The two of them tacitly turned around and killed without any hesitation, causing so many people on their side to run away. He really didn't expect the two of them to be so strong. The tribulation passing stage cultivators he brought with him were all killed without being able to fight back. From this, it could be seen that the two of them were indeed people sent by the number one sects of the righteous and diabolism. They were not simple. Yen Bugui stood alone outside the battlefield, watching his junior brother fight with his life on the line, as well as a group of Chinese cultivators fighting angrily. He suddenly felt his hands and feet go numb. He had always thought that all Chinese cultivators were selfish and that the so-called righteousness was nothing but a joke. He never thought that he would see such a scene. He even doubted that with the help of a group of foreign cultivators, could he really unify the entire Chinese cultivation world? He was originally full of confidence, but now his willpower was shaken. Looking at the restrained Baihua Fairy and Yen Zixia, he saw that the two of them had both turned away from the cruel battlefield, their eyes filled with grief and indignation, staring at him. Yen Zixia's eyes were filled with tears, the hatred in her eyes made him shudder. Yen Bugui had never seen his daughter look at him like that before. The brocade-robed old man was originally controlling Baihua Fairy, but right now his face was pale as he put his hand on Yen Zixia's shoulder and spoke in a low voice, "Junior brother, leave this to me, you go kill those two for me." Chapter 411. Ze had never seen such a scene before. She didn't know what righteousness was, but she felt an inexplicable sadness that she had never felt before. The temptress lost all her charm at this moment, and her body was trembling uncontrollably. She decided to join the battle, but just as she took a step forward, her arm was grabbed by Yu Qianqiu. Although she told Xiao Wuyuan that the war in the cultivation world had nothing to do with her, she actually believed that by staying by Yu Qianqiu's side, she would be able to better use his hidden strength. When she glanced at him, she saw that he was looking down expressionlessly, unbelievably calm. She instantly felt a chill in her heart. She didn't expect him to just stand by and watch. "Just stand by and watch, don't grab me." The temptress's face was as cold as frost. "Why are you so agitated?" Yu Qianqiu didn't have the respect a disciple had for his mistress. He snorted coldly and said, "What a woman's view. No wonder the illusion palace was destroyed in your hands. Those who don't plan for the world can't plan for a moment, and those who don't plan for the overall situation can't plan for a region. So what if some people die? Don't tell me that you, the master of a palace, don't know the principle of mercy not leading an army? I'm here, why are you panicking?" Ze didn't know so many principles, but she looked at the temptress in deep thought. In fact, she didn't know what to do in such a situation. She felt that Yu Qianqiu was right to say such nice words. The temptress was stunned. She didn't expect that Yu Qianqiu would dare to use the manly way on her. But strangely, she felt that it was very useful. She looked at her arm that was being grabbed by him, and the frost on her face disappeared. She thought, as long as you don't just stand by and watch. Yu Qianqiu had been paying attention to what was happening below. When he saw that the old man in linen had handed over control of Yen Zixia to the old man in embroidered robes, he quickly glanced at Dongfang Chang, Ao and Xiao Wuyuan. His eyes narrowed and he pointed at the old man in linen robes. "Z, keep an eye on him. If he dares to make a move, stop him immediately and kill him without mercy. Ze nodded heavily and said, N. Then, a piece of purple-black bamboo appeared in her hand. Hearing this, the enchantress of 100 Charm immediately felt much more at ease. Sure enough, as soon as the old man in linen handed over the man, he shot towards Qiu Weiyuan. Ze teleported and disappeared almost at the same time. Qiu Weiyuan, who was in the midst of fighting, was shocked when he heard the sound of something flying towards him. He knew that a top-notch expert had arrived. Taking the opportunity to look back, he felt that something was wrong. There was a world of difference between an expert in the final phase of the tribulation stage and a cultivator in the middle phase of the tribulation stage. Although he had the Black Moon Pagoda, he was not arrogant enough to fight against an expert in the final phase of the tribulation stage. On the other side, Dongfang Chang Ao also shouted a warning, "Be careful, Qiu Weiyuan." He also brandished his spear and rushed over to lend a hand. Otherwise, if Qiu Weiyuan was defeated, he would not be able to save Qiu Weiyuan alone. However, his opponent also understood that once the old man in linen robes dealt with Qiu Weiyuan, his next target would definitely be Dongfang Chang Ao. Immediately, 3 foreign cultivators rushed over and formed a triangle to hold Dongfang Chang Ao back. They did not aim to defeat him, they just needed to hold him back. Before the old man in linen robes arrived, a silver light had already left his hand and shot towards Qiu Weiyuan with a strong current of air. Its speed and power were hard to predict, but Qiu Weiyuan was also being held back and could not get away. His eyes were filled with grief and indignation, and he was about to make his last attack. Elder Qiu, run! A group of Wei Xia cultivators rushed over in a frenzy, attacking the foreign cultivators who were trapping Qiu Weiyuan without any regard for their lives. There were even several cultivators who soared into the sky, wanting to risk their lives to block the old man in linen robes. However, they were struck by a casual palm strike from the old man, and the tyrannical force immediately smashed their flesh and blood into pieces. None of them were spared. Yan Bugui, who was outside, saw his junior brother's reaction and smacked his lips with difficulty. After all, they had been brothers for many years and could not be thrown away so easily. However, since things had already come to this, there was no turning back. Fight! Suddenly, a beautiful woman's shout was heard. A black shadow shot over and directly hit the silver light released by the old man in linen robes away, immediately saving Qiu Weiyuan from danger. Ze appeared out of thin air and recalled the purplish-black bamboo. She shouted again, "Fight!" The black shadow shot towards the old man in linen robes again. A strong current of air broke through the air and the old man was shocked. He shook his arms and summoned the silver light. Together, they soared into the sky and barely avoided the black shadow. When Qiu Weiyuan saw the person who saved him, he instantly became spirited and said, "Thank you, Miss Ce." In fact, he was not the only one who felt that way. Everyone else was also spirited. When they were in danger, a strong help suddenly came. This kind of feeling was hard to understand, even if it was just a ray of hope. Moreover, everyone knew that Ze had been by Yu Qianqiu's side for a long time. Since she was here, that guy should be here soon. The guy who was not very famous but could control 1,000 swords appeared in everyone's mind. That guy was an expert in fighting. Moreover, he had more than 600 rogue cultivators under him. Even if they were useless, they could still be of some use. When they thought of more than 600 people coming, everyone couldn't help but look forward to it. Ze raised her head and looked at the sky, then quickly looked at Qiu Weiyuan who was trapped. No one knew what she was thinking, but she shot out the rod in her hand with a swoosh sound. The strong wind blew, and the people below were no match for her. They were all scared out of their wits. However, there was still one person who couldn't escape as fast as the rod. Because he was the target, he immediately let out a scream. After smashing one of the people who trapped Qiu Weiyuan to death, the rod shot back and accompanied Ze to the sky. A linen robe and Ze quickly fought in the sky. From time to time, the sound of "fight, fight, fight" could be heard. It seemed that Ze's great skill of shifting positions, was indeed useful. It was almost suppressing the old man in linen robes. The old man was in danger and was suffering unspeakably. Only then did he realize that his opponent's skills were not just a little higher than his. Especially that strange body movement, it was almost impossible to defend against it. What a joke, although Ze didn't know much about the ways of the world, but in terms of cultivation, Nongzhu spared no effort in teaching her. After all, they were master and disciple in name, but in reality, Ze was his daughter. When he couldn't find a suitable opponent for his daughter, he would personally go and spar with her. Think about it, a person who could fight against an ascended realm middle stage cultivator for a long time would naturally be able to fight against a tribulation passing stage cultivator with ease. The old man in linen robes who was restraining by Hua Fairy and Yen Xia stared at the sky with a serious expression, then suddenly shouted, "Ze, my brother, and I have no grudge against you. Why aren't you staying in your southern sea purple bamboo forest? Why are you here to fight against us?" Ze was in the middle of the fight, so she didn't have time to answer him. Her only reply was, "Fight, fight, fight." Beauty of 100 Charms stared at the fight in the sky, thinking about why she purposely provoked her last night. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel a little scared. This Ze looks like she doesn't know much about the ways of the world, she didn't expect her to be so strong. Seems like it's better not to provoke her, otherwise, if she gets angry, no one will be able to protect her. Yu Qianqiu saw that Ze had the upper hand and wouldn't be in danger, so he breathed a sigh of relief. His gaze turned back to the battlefield where the number of casualties was increasing, silently calculating. The old man in linen robes wouldn't let go of the mother and daughter easily. The old man in linen robes was being restrained by Ze, and the two late-stage tribulation passing stage cultivators couldn't attack, so their threat was greatly reduced. It's time for me to act, otherwise if Ze shows up and I don't show up, I won't be able to explain myself to everyone. Yu Qianqiu silently counted the remaining 30-plus cultivators. It seems like Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan had used up too much of their energy, so they were starting to show signs of exhaustion. His gaze became determined, and a ball of blue fire appeared in his hand. The Allure Beauty's pupils shrank, not knowing what he was going to do, but the blue fire gradually condensed into a fireball in his palm, and Yu Qianqiu suddenly threw the blue fireball directly into the sky. A ray of blue light exploded below the battle between Ze and the old man in linen robes, and the high temperature made the two of them a little uncomfortable. The sudden abnormal scene made the old man in linen robes raise his head to look, and many people also took the opportunity to look, only to see the words, "Prepare for battle, gather and surround them," condensed in the blue fire in the sky. These words didn't appear for long, and gradually disappeared in the sky. However, the meaning of these words was thought-provoking. "Prepare for battle, gather and surround them," appeared at this time. Was there even a need to think? The only thing everyone was worried about was not knowing whether it was a friend or a foe. "It's Yu Qianqiu's blue fire." Someone shouted from below, and the Cultivation Alliance immediately shouted, "Help is here, our help is here." The group of foreign cultivators felt a little guilty, and while fighting, they were distracted from time to time, not knowing what kind of powerful help made their opponents so happy. The old man in linen robes in the sky didn't dare to be distracted to deal with Ze, but suddenly found that a large number of people in black suddenly appeared from all directions, like a swarm of locusts. He didn't know where they came from, but there were at least 500 or 600 people, and all of them were flying quickly in the sky. Based on this alone, it could be concluded that these people in black all had the cultivation of the tribulation stage, otherwise, even a nascent soul late-stage cultivator couldn't fly so fast in the sky. 500 or 600 tribulation stage cultivators? There were so many hidden masters in the 100 Flowers Valley, this was bad. When the old man in linen robes realized this, he was shocked, and hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the old man in linen robes below. "Senior brother, be careful." The voice transmission stopped abruptly, and the old man in linen robes felt a great pain in his back, thinking that it was over. Looking down, he saw a black shadow flying out from his chest where his heart was. At the moment when he was distracted, his defense was a bit lax, and Ze finally found a chance to kill him. The old man in linen robes suddenly looked up to the sky, saw everything, and immediately shouted, "Ze bitch, you dare." Bai Hua Fairy and Yen Xia were suddenly gripped by the strength of his hand. They felt like their shoulders were about to be crushed, but they couldn't say anything. Fight! Ze was also ruthless, hitting the opponent's vital point in one strike. Seeing the opponent falling down, she still wasn't willing to give up, so she called back the bamboo with a strong gust of wind, directly smashing the head of the half-dead person into nothingness. Sure enough, she carried out Yu Qianzhou's kill without mercy to the end. Chapter 412. The purplish-black bamboo shook off the dirt on its body in the air, then flew back to Ziyi's hand. The old man in embroidered robes bellowed, "Slut!" Ziyi scoffed. Without needing anyone to call her, she directly landed in front of him, holding the bamboo in her hand, her face cold as she slowly approached. It seems like she hasn't had enough yet. Yu Qianzhou silently felt bad. This little girl is a one-track mind. She only worships old man Bai's ruthlessness, so she doesn't care about the lives of Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter. So he hurriedly told 100 Charms Enchantress, "Send your voice to her, tell her not to act rashly, be careful that they don't hurt the mother and daughter." 100 Charms Beauty understood the severity of the situation and quickly sent her voice. Ze glanced over, then stayed in front of the old man without moving. Seeing his junior brother die, the old man originally wanted to leave the mother and daughter behind to take revenge, but seeing Ze coming over, he immediately remembered that he's no match for her, so he held the mother and daughter tightly in his hands and spoke in a low voice, "If you dare act recklessly, I'll make the mother and daughter die in front of you first." Ze didn't say anything, only stood there and stared at him, giving him a lot of pressure. The black-clothed people landed from all directions, surrounding the entire battlefield. Each of them had a murderous look on their faces, ready to attack as soon as the order is given. The old man and Yen Bugue looked around, both shocked. These people definitely aren't their people. It's Yu Qianzhou's rogue cultivators. The Cultivation Alliance's side cheered. They confirmed their identities from the rogue cultivator on their chests. Aren't they the rogue cultivators that Yu Qianzhou brought here? But then they noticed something was wrong. Their aura is completely different from the previous rogue cultivators. Originally, they didn't stand in a proper manner, and even if they were to stand together, they wouldn't be able to form a team. However, as these people stood there casually, a sharp aura that was ready to be unleashed was obvious. Especially the eyes that were exposed under their masks were filled with killing intent, and each of them were like wolves waiting for an opportunity to hunt. The allure temptress looked at these people in surprise. Although she could see the words "rogue cultivators" on their chests, she thought more about it. The heroes who robbed them were all masked and dressed in black. Could it be them? He subconsciously glanced at Yu Qianzhou, only to see him walking out from behind a few trees with a calm face, with his hands behind his back. Standing on the hillside, his eyes scanned the surrounding black-clothed men, and an arrogant look appeared on his face. All of them were at the early stage of the crossing calamity. There were more than 600 of them. Where did he get all this from? The Enchantress of 100 Charms secretly clicked her tongue and silently followed him out. Suddenly, she heard the sound of wind coming from both sides and immediately became alert. "Don't be nervous, he's one of us." Yu Qianzhou glanced at her and said indifferently. Two black-clothed men quickly flashed over and stood side by side in front of Yu Qianzhou. They placed their right hands on their chests and bowed silently. The surrounding 600 black-clothed men also turned to face Yu Qianzhou and bowed in the same way. That indescribable aura was very stressful. Yu Qianzhou nodded slightly, and the black-clothed men resumed their battle preparations. The two black-clothed men in front of him flashed to the left and right of Yu Qianzhou and waited for orders. The allure temptress was slightly stunned, and could only stand guard behind Yu Qianzhou. In the eyes of the people at the foot of the hill, Yu Qianzhou and the black-clothed men on his left and right were indifferently observing the battle situation below. Yen Bugui's expression changed the moment he saw Yu Qianzhou. This guy had ruined his plans time and time again. It was really infuriating. "Yu Qianzhou, why haven't you asked your men to make a move? When are you going to wait?" Qiu Weiyuan shouted from below. It could be seen that his qi was indeed running out after the continuous fierce battle with Dongfang Cheng Ao. Elder Chiu, I'm really sorry, we're late. Please lead everyone away from the encirclement with Elder Dongfang. Don't worry about the matter of revenge, leave it to us, the rogue cultivators, so that we won't be affected. Yu Qianqiu shouted loudly. The allure temptress behind him rolled her eyes. They were obviously early, but he said they were late. She stretched out her sharp index finger and wanted to poke his waist again. Who knew that the two black-clothed men beside him would suddenly turn their heads and stare coldly at her? Although the allure temptress's cultivation was higher than the two of them, she still felt a little creeped out by their sharp gaze. She embarrassedly withdrew her hand. Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan exchanged glances from afar. Then, they shouted at the crowd together, everyone, retreat from the rogue cultivators' encirclement, quickly. As they spoke, they struggled to break away from the entanglement of the few people. As they retreated, they did their best to provide cover for everyone. However, the foreign cultivators also understood that if they were to retreat, the opposing black-clothed men would most likely kill them. So, they all stuck close to them and pestered them. Yu Qianqiu frowned and shouted softly, "Command, support." Yes. The two black-clothed men replied in unison and quickly made an order with their hand signals. The surrounding black-clothed men immediately formed into a well-trained three-man battle formation. They quickly shrunk the encirclement and closed in on the people who were fighting. The allure temptress was shocked. Just a few simple hand signals were able to command so many tribulation-passing stage cultivators as if they were one person. It was simply unbelievable. Yen Bugui and the old man in embroidered robes turned pale with fright. They felt a serious threat. Zi was somewhat dumbfounded as she looked at her surroundings. Those black-clothed people were cold and intimidating. Were these the same people that Yu Qianqiu had brought to wander around previously? The black-clothed men directly passed by the 100 Flowers Palace, ignoring Zi and the old man in embroidered robes. They only surrounded the people outside the 100 Flowers Palace. The encirclement shrank like a sieve, gradually filtering out the disciples of the various sects of the Cultivation Alliance and forcing the foreign cultivators back. There were also some people who wanted to take advantage of the entanglement to escape. However, as soon as they stepped forward, the groups of three in front of them immediately separated one person from each other. The encirclement formation was not chaotic at all. However, several people attacked at the same time. When the foreign cultivator released his flying sword, he didn't even have the chance to take it back. He was cut into several pieces on the spot and instantly killed. Occasionally, there were a few who wanted to fly into the sky and escape, but they all met the same fate. The power displayed by the combined attack immediately shocked everyone present. The people that Yen Bugui brought with him no longer dared to test their sharpness and were all forced to retreat. All of the surviving Cultivation Alliance cultivators were finally able to safely retreat. In front of the 100 Flowers Palace, within a radius of 100 meters, more than 30 foreign cultivators were surrounded in panic, not knowing what would happen next. As soon as Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan came out, they immediately flew to Yu Qianqiu's side. When they saw the two black-clothed men beside him, they sized them up curiously. Qiu Wuyuan said in surprise, "Yu Qianqiu, are they those rogue cultivators?" Yu Qianqiu looked at the two people who were covered in blood and said with a smile, "If it's not them, where would I come from?" As he said this, he pointed at Yen Bugui and ordered his men, "Capture this person alive. I want to exchange him for hostages. Leave no one alive. Kill." The two of them quickly gave the order, and the encirclement formation changed again, becoming a small team of 10 people. Half of them quickly rushed into the encirclement, and the other half quickly closed the encirclement again. A strangulation battle with an absolute advantage was displayed in front of the surviving members of the Cultivation Alliance, and it really shocked everyone. The opponent almost only had one chance to attack. Once the magic weapons or magic treasures in their hands were used, they would never be able to return, and they themselves would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Facing more than 300 cultivators at the Crossing Calamity stage, more than 30 cultivators at the Crossing Calamity stage were quickly separated. Facing a group attack alone, and the opponent's cooperation was seamless. One could imagine the outcome. It was a battle without any suspense. The black-clothed and masked rogue cultivators killed all the opponents in a moment, at the cost of no casualties. Yen Bugue looked around in horror. He was really the only one left. He never dreamed that there were so many crossing calamity stage experts hiding in the Hundred Flowers Valley. Fortunately, the opponent obviously didn't want to kill him. The brocade-clothed old man looked down with a pale face. Although he wasn't surrounded, the purple clothes in front of him made it difficult for him to escape. Now the mother and daughter in his hands were his last life-saving talismans, and he could only hold on to them tightly. Yu Qianqiu shouted at him, "Old man in flowery clothes, listen up, I don't want to waste time with you. Let them go immediately, and I will let you and Yen Bugue go. Words are no proof. How can I believe you?" The brocade-clothed old man shouted immediately. "I, Yu Qianqiu, value my credibility the most, and I have never gone back on my words. I guarantee with my credibility, you can rest assured," Yu Qianqiu said. The brocade-clothed old man sneered, "Credibility? Do you really think this old man is a 3-year-old child? If you swear an oath, this old man thinks it's better than credibility. You don't have the right to bargain with me. I said I will let you go, so of course I will keep my word." Yu Qianqiu coldly said, "I will count to 10, if you still don't let them go, Ze. Bring me that old man's head." Then he stared at Yen Bugue and said in a low voice, "And don't let him live." "No." Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan both shouted. Dongfang Cheng, Ao shook his head, "Yu Qianqiu, we can negotiate." Bai Hua Fairy had already closed her eyes, while Yen Zixia tearfully stared at Yu Qianqiu, but he ignored her. "I have never gone back on my words. If you have the guts, then save the mother and daughter right now," Yu Qianqiu coldly said to Dongfang Cheng, Ao, then turned around and began to count, 1, 2, 3. And his speed wasn't slow either. Ze slowly stepped forward. The brocade-clothed old man's face changed. He didn't think that she wouldn't even consider and forced him to make a decision, and in such a hurry. When he counted to 8, he finally shouted, "Wait. If you have something to say then say it, I don't have the patience." Yu Qianqiu coldly snorted and continued to count, 9. "I agree." The brocade-clothed old man shouted, "I hope you can keep your promise." He really didn't have a choice. Even if he killed the mother and daughter and left Yen Bugue to escape from Ze, such a big matter would eventually reach Yen Zhuixing's ears. It's impossible to hide it. With Yen Zhuixing's relationship with Man Hu and the others, sooner or later they won't let him go. He might as well take a gamble, as long as he can escape. Even letting the mother and daughter go is the same, at least he can explain it to Yen Zhuixing. What if they keep their promise? That's even better. Hearing that, Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan's hearts that were already in their throats finally calmed down. "It's good that you agree. In this world, you can doubt anything, but Yu Qianqiu's character, you definitely don't need to doubt it, it's always been tested." Yu Qianqiu nodded and casually said. Chapter 413. Everyone's eyes were focused on the old man, cautiously waiting for his next move. No one noticed, unknowingly, Yu Qianqiu has become the leader of this place. In fact, this was also his goal. He could have acted earlier, that way the Cultivation Alliance wouldn't have to pay such a heavy price, but he waited until the Cultivation Alliance couldn't hold on any longer, when even the brave Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan were at a disadvantage. Only then did he act. Although adding flowers to a brocade is good, it's not as good as sending charcoal in the snow to achieve his goal. After the Cultivation Alliance sacrificed hundreds of lives, he managed to turn the tide. Now he's the leader here. Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan can't interfere. From today onwards, no one in the cultivation world can say that he, the hero, is the scum of the cultivation world. He's long since disliked this title. Now that Yen Bugue and the others have arrived, of course he has to take advantage of the situation. "Since you dare to call me a scum of the cultivation world, then I'll make you pay with your blood to take back this title. From the moment he was watching the battle from the shadows, he already had this thought. Only when the situation was out of his expectations did he start to interfere. Although he agreed, the old man was still a bit hesitant, but in the end he still gritted his teeth and pushed Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia away. Dongfang Cheng, Hao and Xiao Wuyuan quickly went to protect the mother and daughter. The old man looked at Yan Bugui who was surrounded below, then shouted to Yu Qianqiu, I've let them go. It's time to fulfill your promise. Your worries are unnecessary. I've already said that you can doubt anything, but you definitely don't need to doubt my character. I've always been a man of my words. I've never discounted them. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand. Let them go. With that order, the black-clothed men surrounding Yan Bugui quickly moved away. The embroidered-robed old man immediately shouted, let's go. He immediately shot into the sky. Yan Bugui looked at Bai Hua Fairy and Yan Zixia with a complicated gaze, but didn't dare to stay any longer and also shot into the sky to chase after them. The two of them broke through the seal formation above the 100 Flowers Valley and quickly disappeared. Retreat. Yu Qianqiu nodded. The black-robed men on both sides immediately issued an order. The black-robed men below quickly collected the storage pouches of the dead foreign cultivators. Then, they flew across the sky and disappeared into the surrounding mountains, as if they had never appeared. Everyone was stunned. Could these people really be those rogue cultivators? Even when retreating, they didn't forget to scavenge some things. They really had the demeanor of those poor rogue cultivators. However, at least he still had some morals and didn't touch the belongings of the dead disciples of the various sections. Otherwise, it would really be difficult to recover them. Actually, it had nothing to do with morality. Yu Qianqiu knew that these second-rate disciples didn't have anything valuable on them. Why would they do something so shameful and cause trouble? On the other hand, the guests that came from afar probably had quite a bit of money on them, so he should take them back to check. Ze flashed back to Yu Qianqiu's side. Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but look at Yan Zixia's sorrowful eyes. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly, thinking, eldest miss, please don't blame me for being cruel just now. The crueler I am, the safer you and your mother will be. I hope you understand. At this time, the exhausted Bai Zizong's group of 4 ran over and bowed, saying, thank you, sir and Miss Ze, for saving our lives. Ze looked at the ragged clothes of the 4 people and frowned, but didn't say anything. No need to thank me, it's what I should do. Yu Qianqiu nodded and smiled. He also noticed the 4 people just now. It seems that the shopkeepers and workers of the 4 great family shops were almost all killed in order to protect them. Luckily, they managed to save their lives, otherwise a few people who shouldn't have died would have died in vain. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. You guys talk. A green light flashed from his sleeve, and Yu Qianqiu stepped on his sword and left. The temptress didn't even know the 4 people, so what was there to talk about? Of course, she followed them. Ze glanced at the 4 people. What was there to talk about? She only felt disgusted, so she sprung away. Everyone watched the 3 people leave, and then looked at the outside of the 100 Flowers Palace. There were corpses everywhere, and the survivors from each sect started to collect the corpses. The market in the 100 Flowers Valley was already deserted. When the 3 of them returned to the 100 Flowers house, there was actually no one there. They probably all went to help just now. Yu Qianqiu rubbed his stomach and said, I didn't eat anything at first, and now there's no one. What bad luck. There should be ingredients in the kitchen. You guys go and rest first, I'll send them up later. The temptress smiled and slowly walked to the back. She really did look like a servant. Yu Qianqiu didn't stand on ceremony and directly went upstairs. After entering the room, he sat in front of the round table in the center and poured himself a cup of tea. As he drank, he looked at Ze and asked, if you have anything you want to ask, just ask. Don't stifle yourself. This girl's doubts were all written on her face, and she didn't know how to hide it. Ze clasped her hands together and fidgeted for a while. Suddenly, She looked at the door guiltily and turned back to ask, "Do you want me to massage your shoulders?" "What?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned, and thought he heard wrong. "Do you want me to massage your shoulders?" Ze repeated. Yu Qianqiu's expression twitched. He didn't know what was wrong with this woman. She actually wanted to do such a thing. Even if she gave face to her father, he wouldn't dare to let her do it. So he shook his head and said, "No need, no need. If you have something to say, just say it." Ze frowned slightly. It seemed that she was a little unhappy that he didn't let her massage him. She bit her lips and sat in front of Yu Qianqiu. She asked, "Those loose cultivators are not loose cultivators at all. Where did you find them?" "Why don't I know?" Yu Qianqiu replied without hesitation, "Of course, I hired them with money. If you don't pay, who would help you for free?" Ziyi's expression became serious and said, "The joint attack of these people is very powerful. If I was surrounded by them, I wouldn't be able to last long if I didn't escape. You must have spent a lot of money to hire so many people at once, right?" The sound of people coming upstairs came from outside. Yu Qianqiu didn't deny it and just replied with an N. After a while, the temptress came in with a pile of food, and the table was almost full. The people from various sects were busy cleaning up the mess outside, but the three of them were eating and drinking comfortably in the room. The temptress took the opportunity to pour wine for Yu Qianqiu and asked, "Just now, that old man in embroidered robes had the lives of Guan Muxue and her daughter in his hands. You let him go, and that's still acceptable. But you clearly had the chance to kill Yan Bugui. Why did you use him to exchange for the lives of the mother and daughter? You let him escape for nothing." Yu Qianqiu scratched his nose and thought to himself, "The Yan father and son are targeting the Cultivation Alliance, not me. My interference has already made them very unhappy. If I really kill Yan Bugui, then just wait and see. Yan Zhuixing will definitely lead a group of people to fight me. The entire Chinese cultivation world needs to form the Cultivation Alliance to be able to fight them. I have nothing better to do. If I want to become enemies with these powerful people who killed my father, I'd be more likely to have a problem with my brain. You guys continue to fight, I'll just cheer you on from the side. Don't think that I'll get too involved." Yu Qianqiu drank a mouthful of wine and ate a mouthful of food, then casually explained, "Some time ago, in order to split the money, the previous palace master of the 10,000 demons, Senior Yan Wuchen, had given me face. How could I have the cheek to kill his only son? Just take it as returning the old man's favor." The temptress nodded slightly. She had also heard about the matter of splitting the money, but she was more or less confused. There was no other reason, but the key was that this little fox was too sincere, which made her suspicious. On the coast of the East Sea, the heroes of the Cultivation Alliance, the righteous and the evil sects were stationed there. The defensive line was pulled apart along the coast, spanning hundreds of miles. This was originally a place where the coastal residents lived and fished for generations. However, in order to not implicate these ordinary people, the Fu Xian Island used its control over the secular imperial power to force the local residents to move away. Although it was done with good intentions, the relocation was not a small number. Therefore, hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes. For a time, it caused public discontent and almost led to a civil uprising. In the end, it was General Wei who led the army to suppress it forcefully. They barely managed to move away, but the resettlement of hundreds of thousands of people became a problem. However, corrupt officials were running rampant in the imperial court, and the money allocated by the upper echelons was embezzled layer by layer. How much of it could fall into the hands of the people? If the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of people became a problem, it was only a matter of time before something big happened. This was not something the cultivation world would care about, and no one would care about. They had already fought with the foreign cultivators a few times, and both sides had suffered some losses. Currently, both sides were actively adjusting, preparing to compete with each other again. However, at this time, the Cultivation Alliance suddenly received news that Yan Bugui had secretly brought dozens of tribulation-passing stage experts to attack the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance, the 100 Flowers Valley. Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu led more than 600 loose cultivators and arrived in time. Almost all of Yan Bugui's group were killed. Unfortunately, in order to save Bai Hua Fairy and her daughter, Yan Bugui and a late-stage tribulation passing stage expert were released. When the various sects heard this news, they couldn't believe it. Just the loose cultivators under Yu Qianqiu could kill dozens of tribulation passing stage experts. So they all sent messages to their own people to ask for more details. The result was that the more than 600 loose cultivators led by Yu Qianqiu were not ordinary loose cultivators. They were all tribulation passing stage experts. The various sects were shocked when they heard this. More than 600 tribulation passing stage experts. After confirming it several times, they finally believed it was true. The various sects gathered again to discuss this matter. It was a crucial moment in the war. How could they not use so many experts in the rear? So the Luo sect suggested that no matter where those loose cultivators came from, Yu Qianqiu could leave 50 loose cultivators to continue defending the 100 Flowers Valley, and the remaining 500 loose cultivators would be transferred to the various sects to prepare for the war. This proposal was unanimously supported by the various sections. Everyone knew very well why they did this. No one could rest assured that Yu Qianqiu had such a strong force in his hands. Especially sects like the Luo sect who had a grudge against him, it was better to split them up as soon as possible. Of course, jealousy was also a practical reason. All the sects wanted to take a bite out of it. The news of the transfer was immediately sent back. When Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan received the news, they looked at each other. Anyone with a brain would know what it meant, not to mention someone like Yu Qianqiu who didn't want to be at a disadvantage. Dongfang Cheng, Ao said in a low voice, "Brother Qiu, you and Yu Qianqiu have always been brothers. I think it's better for you to make the decision." Chapter 4:14. There's no need for me to explain what this means. Qiu Wuyuan tossed the jade archive in his hand onto the tea table and chuckled. Didn't you see how obedient those people are towards Yu Qianqiu? Do you think Yu Qianqiu will obediently hand over such a useful subordinate? Sigh. Whether he's willing or not, one of us has to go talk to him. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer to the various sections. Dongfang Changyao said helplessly. He just saved our lives, and we're going to cut his flesh off. Who has the guts to say such a thing? Qiu Wuyuan slapped the tea table beside him. Dongfang Changyao frowned. They didn't see the situation at the time. It's easy for them to talk. But since my supporting Immortal Island and the 10,000 demons have agreed, and we're the ones in charge here, only you and I can talk to him. Talk my ass. Qiu Wuyuan shot to his feet. He pointed to the east and said angrily, "They only dared to speak so shamelessly because they're far away from us. Believe it or not, if they were face to face, none of them would dare to say something like that to Yu Qianqiu's face. With that brat's virtue, no matter how high your cultivation base is, no matter who you are, he dares to kill you on the spot. Which sect would dare to fart like that? The decree of the 10,000 demons is also here. Would you dare to disobey it?" Dongfang Changyao asked. When Qiu Wuyuan heard that, he was so angry that he glared at him and sat down again. Dongfang Changyao stood up and sighed. "We can't waste our time here. Let's go. We'll go together. If we're going to lose face, we'll lose face together." Upstairs in the 100 Flowers house, Yu Qianqiu was pinching his chin and smiling coldly at the window. The moment the coast of the East Sea came out with the results of the discussion, Bai Shan had immediately sent a message to him and had the Bai clan's people inform him of the news. He waited there to see who in the Cultivation Alliance would tell him the good news. The Allure Enchantress, who was leaning on the side, frowned slightly. She was secretly the leader of the Pink sect, so she naturally knew the results of the discussion. Yu Qianqiu glanced at her and sneered, "None of you so-called sects are good people. If I had known earlier, I would have killed all the disciples of the various sects in the 100 Flowers Valley. A bunch of people who bite the hand that feeds them." The temptress rolled her eyes and said, "Why are you scolding me too? Most of the sects agree. How can a small pink sect like me stop it? Besides, are you really that easy to talk to? Will you hand him over? Humph. Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly but didn't say anything. He thought to himself, there's more to come, let's play slowly. Hey. Let me ask you, what's the relationship between the 600 lone cultivators and the hero? The allure enchantress smiled and leaned over, then poked his waist with her finger. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and said, there's no relationship at all, don't think too much. Ze, who was sitting obediently at the side, widened her eyes and looked at the two of them. She could understand the first part of the conversation, but the more she listened, the more confused she became. Seeing the two of them being intimate with each other, an inexplicable feeling of jealousy arose in her heart. They're here, Yu Qianqiu said as he looked at Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Weiyuan. The allure enchantress looked over, and the two people below also saw the two people at the window above. They looked at each other and walked into the 100 Flowers Valley in silence. Once the two of them entered the room, Yu Qianqiu waved his hand at them and said, you don't have to say anything, I already know. For the sake of the big picture, I don't have any opinions, but to be honest, I can't make the decision for those lone cultivators. If you have anything to say it to them face to face. I won't get involved, in case they say that I'm trying to ruin things. Let's go. Follow me to see them. The two of them were stunned, then they thought about it and realized that it was true. The people from the 4 major clans had probably told him before they did. But this was also good, to avoid awkwardness. Thus, the two of them didn't say a word and followed him out. However, they were cursing in their hearts, is this guy that easy to talk to? Once they left the 100 Flowers Valley, they saw people bowing to Yu Qianqiu. After all, he saved everyone's lives. Yu Qianqiu smiled and waved his hand along the way. The group left the 100 Flowers Valley. Yu Qianqiu threw out a flying sword and stepped on it. The few of them landed in a remote valley. Looking around and not seeing anyone, Yu Qianqiu clapped his hands. Suddenly, someone shouted from a dark corner of the valley, who's there? The Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and said something that confused the few of them. Someone in the dark immediately replied, the pagoda suppresses the river demon. The few of them immediately understood that it was a secret code. They were all shocked by such a classic secret code and looked at each other. A few figures shot over. They were the loose cultivators. Most of the black cloth covering their heads had been lifted up, revealing their noses and mouths. Their mouths were stained with a lot of mud, and they were chewing as if they were eating something. Dongfang Cheng, Ao and the others shifted their gazes to their hands. Some of them were holding wild sweet potatoes, while others were holding wild mountain spirits. Most of them had been bitten off. They were eating this, but they didn't seem to have been washed, so they just casually peeled the dirt and ate it. The few of them were confused and didn't know what was going on. However, Yu Qianqiu shook his head and sighed, brothers, I've let you down. Sigh. Elder Dongfang of supporting Celestial Island and Elder Qiu of 10,000 demons have brought the decree of the Cultivation Alliance. Do as you wish, I won't say anything else. After that, he quietly walked to the side with his back facing the others. Let them down? What did this guy do? The few of them were even more confused. Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Qiu Weiyuan exchanged glances. Qiu Weiyuan took a step forward and coughed, we've received a decree from the Cultivation Alliance. In order to deal with the foreign cultivators' provocation, we've decided to transfer 500 people from your group to support them. Prepare to depart today. Pfft. The leader spat out the thing in his mouth and waved his hand at Qiu Weiyuan. What bullsh asterisk T decree? We're done, we're not going to do it anymore. When they took the money, they didn't give us a share, but when they fought for their lives, they thought of us. Damn it, we haven't even gotten a single spirit stone until now. We've been digging for these things in the mountains every day to eat. What a joke. As he said that, he threw away the half of the wild sweet potato. The few people beside him also threw away the things in their hands and shouted, "That's right, if you don't give us money, we're done, we're done." They wiped their mouths and pulled down their masks again. Dongfang Cheng Ao frowned, and Qiu Weiyuan's face darkened. Neither of them were fools. In the end, they made such a big scene to scare people. In the end, it was all for money. It was very Yu Qianqiu's style. If it wasn't Yu Qianqiu's instruction, then it would be a miracle. Zi nodded in agreement with these masked rogue cultivators' statement that they wouldn't do it if they didn't give them money. However, she was a little confused as to why they would eat this thing. Allure Beauty couldn't help but smile. If this guy wanted to do it, why didn't he make it more realistic? Why did he have to make it so full of flaws? Would a tribulation-passing stage cultivator be so hungry that they would dig wild sweet potatoes in the mountains to eat? With their cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for them to abstain from food for half a year. Asking for money with this reason was too lame. Yu Qianqiu, what do you mean? Qiu Weiyuan turned around and asked. His face darkened, as if he had been tricked. Humph. Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly. He thought to himself, it's good that you understand. I'm just afraid that you don't, or you'll really think that I'm an idiot. He slowly turned around and said, I don't mean anything. What they mean is their own, it has nothing to do with me. Dongfang Cheng Ao patted Qiu Weiyuan's arm, signaling him to calm down. He walked out and said to the rogue cultivators, we've already delivered the decree. If you have any requests, why don't you tell me? I'll pass it on to the Cultivation Alliance. Elder Dongfang is wise. The leader of the masked rogue cultivators cupped his fists and said, we're all rogue cultivators. When the Cultivation Alliance doesn't need us, they don't even bother to look us in the eye. Now that we can use it, they want us to risk our lives for a so-called decree. What a good plan. We have the elderly and the young to take care of, and we don't have a sect to guarantee us. If we die, we'll lose everything. Now we only have one request, and that is to give us some settlement allowance. That way, even if we die, we can't say anything. We have the elderly and the young to take care of. Settlement allowance? Why does it sound like something from the secular world? Dongfang Cheng Ao was slightly stunned. He almost didn't understand what they meant, but he understood that they still wanted money. He took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. He said, how much money do you want? You can tell me directly. I'll pass it on to the Cultivation Alliance. As for whether they'll give it to you, I can't guarantee. The leader of the masked rogue cultivators said, we have more than 600 brothers. Each of us will ask for 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones. If it's less than that, then there's no need to say any more. More than 60 million upper-grade spirit stones. You're asking for an exorbitant price. Qiu Weiyuan sneered. Elder Qiu, you can say whatever you want. In short, don't force anyone. If you give us the money, we'll do it. If not, we'll just leave. The world is a big place. I believe that if we 600 brothers unite together, it won't be difficult to get 60 million. What do you think, Elder Qiu? The leader of the masked rogue cultivators said calmly, but everyone could hear the threat in his words. Dongfang Cheng Ao raised his hand to stop Qiu Weiyuan, who was a little impulsive. He nodded and said, I understand what you mean. I'll pass on the message. Let's put it this way for now. I'll let you know when I get a reply. Without another word, Qiu Weiyuan took the lead and flew away. Dongfang Cheng Ao cupped his hands at everyone and left as well. Good job. You guys continue, I won't disturb you anymore. Yu Qianqiu said with a smile. He threw out a flying sword and flew away. The two girls followed behind him. Just like that, the few of them slipped away, but they didn't get any practical results. When the various sects received the news, many of them immediately cursed. However, they still felt that letting these people gather together was a threat. They had to find a way to break them up. At the same time, they all wanted to recruit their own sections. Especially in this situation, everyone knew what it meant to have a group of tribulation-passing stage cultivators. A slightly bigger sect could fork out 60 million upper-grade spirit stones each, but no one wanted to let the 600 rogue cultivators have it all to themselves. Therefore, the various sects came up with a way to pool the money. According to the calculation of 100,000 upper-grade spirit stones per person, the 600 rogue cultivators were divided up. When Dongfang Cheng, Ao and Xiao Weiyuan received the news, they went to look for the rogue cultivators again. Who knew that these guys wouldn't act until they saw the rabbit? They insisted on getting the spirit stones first. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.